Hello, Mind Bloomers. This is Mind Bloom, the safe space at the intersection of mental health advocacy and breast cancer awareness. Mind Bloom is your podcast. Subscribe to hear more on female entrepreneurship and the juggling of family life, career goals, and romantic relationships. Not an easy task, especially if your physical and mental health need a big hug right now. Hello, Mind Bloomers. This is Marina Gee, your host, and welcome to Mind Bloom, the podcast for all things mental health and breast cancer awareness. Before we dive into this week's episode, let me just say that Mind Bloom, the podcast, and the content at Mind Bloom U across all platforms is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should always contact your providers for medical counsel. Never disregard any medical treatment or delay seeking professional help because of any content authored or distributed by Mind Bloom. Hello guys, how are you today? Happy Tuesday and welcome to episode 29 of Mind Bloom. I am excited to let you know that the month of December is jam-packed with great interviews, and it's dedicated to women who got the knock on the door from breast cancer himself and have in one way or another changed their lives and their careers, their ambitions, and their goals by 180 degrees. These are women who have changed careers, discovered new pathways for happiness and fulfillment, and have, in a nutshell, found new income streams, all because of breast cancer. So the corollary here is obviously not, hooray, breast cancer, you're the best, nothing like that. But it's still exciting to witness the strength and the choices of people who decided they would not be defined by and constricted by breast cancer and other life circumstances like infertility, the loss of a loved one, and the changes in their own bodies. So stay with me through December and through the end of 2020. We have much to celebrate. The year of the global pandemic, the year we all stayed at home, the year we started new careers without ever looking back again. The year we homeschooled. The year our pets realized they don't know what to do with us all day at home. And the year, among so many other things, where Thanksgiving was spent on Zoom. How was your Thanksgiving, and how are your Christmas or Hanukkah plans looking like? Do they involve video chatting with your friends and relatives? Do they include a coronavirus test? Do they include you sneaking out of the state or breaking any other of the state or country mandates for staying in or locked down? Which I hope not. And what are you going to be cooking or buying from the store? Or baking? What movies, what TV shows are you expecting to watch during the festive season? Or as Seinfeld would put it, Festivus. I have to say Christmas is a favorite of mine. I don't go too crazy over lights or Christmas trees or presents, but I do like the idea of a family gathering around a table to eat and partake and laugh and tell stories. I miss that from the time when my family would still get together many, many, many years ago. And I'm hoping I can reconstruct that a little bit this year. Even if it's just 2-3 people around the table, my table this year, I still want Christmas to be joyful and sweet and yummy and full of baked goods and all things involving butter, sugar, flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, eggnog, ginger, cloves, and warm wine. That was my plan for Thanksgiving, and I'm glad to say it turned out pretty good. There was just 3 of us and 2 dogs, and I like that ratio of people to animals. 3 to 2 sounds pretty fair and balanced, and it was so good and so fun and so warm and loving and tasty. And let me tell you more about other ratios. We had, for 3 people, we had 2 bottles of wine and 3 desserts. I think that is an amazing ratio. And let's not forget that I made something I really invented, which is my deconstructed Thanksgiving pie. So picture a Cornish pie, a British pie basically, with a bottom layer of stuffing, then a layer of collard greens, a layer of turkey and ham, and a layer of cranberry sauce. Then you top it with the lid made out of dough. You put everything in the oven for about an hour, and it's the yummiest thing. So instead of roasting the turkey in the oven and having the side dishes, the usual side dishes, stuffing, collard greens, etc., I put everything in layers inside a pie. And it was really yummy and cool to look at. And we had so many leftovers, which is the best part. So please share, what new recipes have you tried this Thanksgiving? How did you cope mentally and emotionally? Was it easier or more difficult for you to not have your family around? I have to say that a lot of the stress for me of the holidays is not going to be tormenting me this year. I won't have to travel, and usually it's an intercontinental flight for me, and then what do I do with my dog? Does she come with me? And she has in the past, but it's an added layer of responsibility and costs and logistics. So I won't have to do that this year. And then I won't have to manage any of the constraints that come with having divorced parents and having to pick and choose where to spend Christmas, how long to spend with each of the families in each of the households. I can just very selfishly stay in my apartment and enjoy the coziness of my own kitchen and the comfort of my bubble, which is, my room, my apartment, my things, my dog. After 9 months, 10 months, I don't even know anymore, of such hardship as job loss and health complications and just financial instability, it's good to let go of one layer of discomfort and anxiety. Not to say that I don't love my family or their company or traveling home for the holidays. Not that at all. I hope you understand and know what I am talking about. It's just that if we can all of us, if we can strip a few of the layers that weigh down on us this year, such as I was saying, airports and air travel and managing the pet situation or the children's situation if you're a parent, and staying away if possible from the habitual difficult conversations or lack of communication or just the usual strongholds that exist in every family. I feel that if that added pressure is removed from our lives, then a lot of anxiety will be kept at bay, and a lot of energy can be saved to fight for other goals, such as managing job hunting or debt payoff or parenting, especially if the schools are closed, or just facing illness, really, whether it's mental illness or breast cancer in the case of Mind Bloom, or COVID-19 itself, of course. But staying away from your family because we have to or because you so choose doesn't have to mean you will be spending the holidays by yourself. By no means. Join a church, join a volunteer program, Zoom in with your friends or chosen family, adopt a pet, or get in touch with me. You know where to find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. Mind Bloom is at mindbloomu. Look up the website. It's mindbloomu.com. I'm always open and welcoming of your emails to info@mindbloomu.com. You can check out the interviews and the full episodes on the Mind Bloom channel. Just look up Mind Bloom on YouTube. You can buy Mind Bloom a coffee by going to buymeacoffee.com/mindbloomu. And you can, if you so wish, leave Mind Bloom a review on the Apple Podcasts app. And I always make sure I leave links to these apps and social media platforms in the show notes. So don't spend the holidays by yourself. Tune in, stay in touch, follow, subscribe, review, and always, always know that I'm here for you. If you want to talk, if you want to vent, if you have questions. I am not a doctor and I am not a psychologist, but I am a good listener. My guest this week is Tara Williamson. She is the founder and CEO of Pink Ink Tattoo. And she is a wonderful guest, so generous with her time and her knowledge. Tara is a nurse and breast cancer survivor. And after her experience with breast cancer, she became an internationally recognized, certified aerola, 3D nipple, and scar tattoo artist. She's on Mind Bloom to tell us about not only her life after breast cancer, but her professional endeavors as a nipple tattooist, and ultimately the person who completes the journey of a breast cancer patient who has undergone breast mound reconstruction and nipple reconstruction or not. I am so happy to have met Tara. She was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma at 39, underwent a double mastectomy, and in the wake of reconstruction, she was not able to find an areola and nipple tattooist who would bring her body back to, as much as possible, to what it once was. So she took it upon herself to learn from the best and become educated in tattooing other people and giving other people the completeness they were looking for and the closing of an arc that was 1 to 5 years in the making. I am absolutely sure you're going to love this interview and love what Tara has to say. So stay tuned. It's right after this. Guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Turns out it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. It will also distribute your podcast for you so that everyone can listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcast and many, many more. And guess what? You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Hello, Tara. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on Mind Bloom. I look forward to hearing your story and sharing your story with the Mind Bloom listeners. I'm sure they will be blown away and mind bloom and all of the things. And speaking of which, what makes your mind bloom, Tara?
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah. And what makes my mind bloom is being diagnosed at 39 years old with breast cancer and being a nurse and taking care of patients that were breast cancer patients, and then being the patient on the other side and all the information I didn't know and just navigating through that whole world of cancer, breast cancer, and then coming to which I know we'll get into, but coming to the aerola tattooing, which is what I do now, that just blew my mind and blew me away because I just didn't know this was an option back in 2012 and 13, which is so sad because you would think by then everyone would know about this. So that's kind of what just took over my life. And I ended up leaving my nursing career and founded my company, Pink Ink Tattoo. So that's what,
wow. Yeah.
Just really.
That makes my mind bloom too. It's crazy and inspiring at the same time. So there's a lot we can talk about. Of course, breast cancer, you choosing a different career and such an inspiring one, and choosing to help women, I suppose, men as well, in this afterlife, this after breast cancer phase of their lives when surgery has happened and they're left, I guess, with a different body and a new means of being in this world. What were you diagnosed with? Because there are so many breast cancers.
Sure. I was diagnosed, it was kind of roller coaster like most women I've met. Yeah. It started with this, it became that, and then it ended up being invasive ductal carcinoma. So it had already, broken through and was starting to spread, but fortunately it hadn't hit the lymph nodes. And that was, a saving grace for me. And I ended up having a lumpectomy, a bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction. So.
A lumpectomy. You had a lumpectomy first, and then, What happened there that first you were recommended a lumpectomy, and then it turned out to be a.
Well, I'm pretty aggressive with myself anyway, and I knew immediately when I was diagnosed that my plan was a bilateral mastectomy, with or without reconstruction. If that was an option, great. Yeah. If not, I was ready to accept that. I taken care of patients who had gone through this. I researched. I, just educated myself on the mental aspect, spiritual, and statistics. And for me, a lumpectomy was not what I wanted to do. But my breast surgeon had different plans, and that was her plan. And she's more conservative, breast conservative. And we just clashed on that. I just felt like she wasn't listening to me. And, I didn't have family history, so I understood all that. And I know the other factors that come into play when, they make that decision. But for me, I felt like this was my body and my choice, and you should listen to what I'm saying. And she just wasn't. And unfortunately, my father passed during this whole time. So as we were waiting for the insurance to cover the prophylactic breast, or the bilateral period, she called and just said, well, let's get it out of you. Let's just do a lumpectomy, and then we'll fight to do, the bilateral. And at that point, I just felt like she's not listening. I just got to get out of me. I don't want to die. I just want to live, and I have to deal with my dad. Like I have to go plan his funeral and try to mourn my own father, in this tragic death. And so I did it. And that's when it came back invasive. And then that's when I finally just stood up and I was like, I have to have my voice heard. Like, this is unacceptable. She has to listen to me. So when I went in for my post-op, I just said, hey, now it's invasive. It's worse than we thought. I got to go. Like, if you can't support me in my decision, then I got to go. I have to find someone else. And we kind of just did a come together and let's work it out. And then we ended up doing the bilateral mastectomies on May 29th, 2012. But, I've met so many women who've gone along a similar path, and unfortunately they didn't stand up and say, hey, this is not. And then, it was worse than they thought, or, things had happened. And I just knew I didn't want to have to deal with that. I'm not saying what I did will ever prevent me from a reoccurrence. I just wanted to be as aggressive as I could for me. I mean, this is a personal decision, and everybody has to make an educated decision, and you go by what your doctor recommends. Of course, they're the doctors. And I just knew for me, though, this was what was best for me.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how many times we talk here on Mind Bloom of self-advocating, and how sometimes it is a battle between you and your breast surgeon. Some are more conservative and we want to be more aggressive, or sometimes it's the other way around. It's complicated. Not only is you going through a breast cancer diagnosis and you're under the gun, you want it out immediately, right? You had in your personal case the loss of your father as well, which I'm so sorry for. Must have been wow. Overwhelming to say the least. And then you're fighting, you're battling, you're standing your ground, but not really. And then you just give in, and then you're subjected to yet another surgery. I mean, it's not necessary. Usually actually American doctors, because I was speaking with someone yesterday in the UK, and American doctors are usually less conservative than their peers in Europe. So you wouldn't imagine, but hey, there's cases for everything. There's examples. The multiplicity of approaches and doctors' interpretations and doctors' opinions is what overwhelms us at the end of the day.
And I think what is so important, you are your best advocate. And I've always said this from the time I finally stood up for myself and I was ready to walk away from her, because nobody else is going to stand up for us. It has to be us. And if we've educated ourselves and we know, what we're going to be mentally and physically able to deal with, then, it's a big decision to say, I want both my breasts cut off. I'm 39 years old. Take my boobs,
please.
Nipples and all. Like, that's huge. It's not something you just do lightly. But at the same time, I felt like I also don't want to have to ever deal with that again. And if to be aggressive and remove them, I am certainly going to do it. It's like a family member called and she said, and I had given her a kidney, my sister, 20 years ago. And so she called me when I got diagnosed and she said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to do a bilateral mastectomy. And she goes, thank you. Thank God. Because, it's not your heart. It's not your liver. It's their boobs. And I get it. people are attached to him. But this was just what happened in my personal life. And I agreed with that. Like, they did their function, what they were supposed to do. I have children. You know, I didn't just wake up and say, I want them gone. I woke up and said, I want to live, and I don't want to deal with this if I don't ever have to again. So they're going. And, you know, it's been 8.5 years. And even today, sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I'm like, darn. And my plastic surgeon did a phenomenal job. I mean, when I put clothes on, you cannot even tell. When I take them off, if it wasn't for a 22-inch mastectomy scar across my chest, you really wouldn't. I mean, he did such a beautiful, perfect job. But at the same time, they're, you know, they weren't the ones God made me. And so, you know, sometimes I'll see breast on TV or what, and they're bouncing around and I get like, darn, I miss real boobs. But I mean, I think that's just something that's human and natural, you know? So I accept me, and mentally I was good with it, and I have no regrets, you know?
It was a trade-off. I mean, your life or your part of your body. Yeah.
You know, and being in that first stage, you know, and doing the aggressive, I did avoid radiation. So I didn't have to, you know, and a lot of people don't know all the, you know, side effects that come along with a radiation treatment as well. It's super important. If that's what you have to do, you should do it. But, you know, you really need to research and learn everything that radiation can affect. They've come a long way. I mean, I see clients now that have had it, and I would never even, I'm almost like, because it's so precise and beautiful now, that the skin isn't as compromised as it was even 6 years ago. So that's a great thing that technology's come so far that it's sparing, you know, skin and tissue and the organs around it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, because it burns everything. Yeah. So let's talk about reconstruction then. What did you opt for, and then how did that turn into nipple tattoos and all of that, please?
Sure. So when I had a consultation with my plastic surgeon and at my first diagnosis, and he told me, you know, they'll go in, remove the breast tissue. I'll come in at the same time, and I will put in expanders. So that's the route that we chose, that I chose, was expanders under the muscle, which now they have new techniques. But at that time, it was under the muscle. It stretches, you know, you go in for your fill-ups. That's what we called them. And he did such a phenomenal job with that as well. I didn't have a lot of muscle spasms or a lot of pain. I had some, but not extreme, because he just went slow. And we did this in a slow process over the whole summer, and then left them. I knew that I wanted to do nipple reconstruction from the beginning. I just wanted to get back to as close as normal as possible. So with that plan, we stretched a little bit further and left them longer. So from September until December, we left the expanders in and just had that skin stretch and be prepared for the exchange, which was the implants, which I chose silicone. Okay. So December 20th of 12, we did the exchange, implanted, took out the expanders, put silicone implants in. And then March of 13, we did the nipple reconstruction and fat grafting. And then that is at that post-op appointment where my plastic surgeon said, all right, Tara, now let's talk about areola tattooing. And I was like, wait a minute, who does this? This is amazing. I have to meet this person. You know, somebody is going to, I just thought this is how it was going to be. And so, unfortunately, he didn't have anyone. We searched the country. We looked everywhere and found a couple of traditional tattoo artists up north, the Northeast of United States, and had been doing it for a really long time. And they had great work, but it just was not my fit. And I have tattoos, so I wasn't intimidated by a tattoo shop. To me, this was just special and it was different. And it wasn't, I couldn't do it. Like that just wasn't a fit for me. And so I ended up having them done by the nurse who had been trained 3 times. And the work looked okay. And then I went in personally and had it done. And when I got there, and the sad thing is the weekend prior, my girlfriends and I got together and they were like, oh, you know, they rolled out this towel with like lipstick and liner. And what color are you going to choose? And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. I can choose what I want now.
Yeah.
And sadly, that just didn't happen Monday morning when I got in that chair and sat down. It was 3 colors, bubblegum pink, chocolate brown, or nude, and 3 sizes, basically literally small, medium, and large. And I just looked at her and I go, where are you going to mix them? Like, we're going to choose something, right? And she was like, no, one of these. And I went like,
and I'm sorry, who is that? Is that the nurse? No,
it's just the nurse, which is pretty common for plastic surgeons to use nurses or even themselves to do the procedure because there just wasn't anyone for years and years, you know, offering the service. So, you know, bless them for giving something,
of course,
some kind of color to it.
But it's cookie cutter.
Total cookie cutter. And then the pain. And, you know, everybody's like, you won't have any feeling. You had your nerves cut. And that was completely false. I had so much feeling. I almost melted through the chair. And I literally almost jumped up with a half a nipple and said, can we use lidocaine? Can we do something? And she was like, no, I don't use, even tattoo artists don't use lidocaine. And I went, but I'm a nurse. You're a nurse. We can use lidocaine. Like, you can use it. And she was like, no, I can't. She didn't. And it was so painful. It felt like fire. So that was the moment when I was finished. I got up and I'll never forget because I walked through this long, you know, short, but it felt long hallway to leave. And as I was walking through it, something just came over me that said, you have to do this. You're going to do this. And I walked through the door. My plastic surgeon was standing there and he said, so what do you think? And I said, that's unacceptable. I'm going to go train with the best in the world and I'm going to come back and do this because we deserve the best. And he said, do it. And then 8 months later, I called him. You know, I'd done my research, found the right person that I knew, and it ended up being a female, and she had an institute up north. And her and I chatted. I knew she was the one. I needed the foundation. I knew I was on a mission. And, you know, 8 months later, I called my plastic surgeon and I said, hey, I've got some great news I want to share with you. And he was like, can you be here at 1? So I was like, sure. So I showed up and I'm like, I started a company. I've already tattooed 4 women in New Jersey. And he was blown away and he saw the photos and he was just like, Tara, like I cannot, like you need a business plan. And I was like, I already have it. Like I'm legit. Here's my license and I'm ready to get started helping survivors. And he was like, this is my office. You get in here and you help women. And now it's been 6.5 years and I'm still there. And, you know, and through all of this, like I now go to 10 different offices across my state. I travel to Mississippi and Texas. I see women from all over the country. I have women flying from Canada. I had someone flying from Peru. Like the blessings have just been, you know, it's unbelievable. I never went to business school. I didn't know this was my path that it was going to be. I wanted to retire, you know, postpartum with mommy babies, nursing. And that just wasn't God's plan, you know, so
wow.
I love what I do. And, you know, I'm truly honored to be able to give women that, you know, last final step of that whole reconstruction process. So a little bit of, you know, when I did decide to do this, I knew it was important that every detail had to be perfect. And so I wanted the best of the best. And that's why I chose ink that's formulated for breast cancer survivors. So the colors are natural. I don't, you know, even on their own, they're going to look natural areola color, or mixing them, which we typically do mix. And it's going to be exactly what they want. You know, it's not about me, it's about them. Right. So it's going to be their choice. And we're not going to tattoo until they know, hey, this is the size, this is the color, and I'll help guide them, but it's going to be ultimately their decision. It's about them. And then, so I wanted my ink to be made in the USA. It doesn't have heavy metal. It's MRI safe. So if we have to have scans, most of the time we do in the future, I want it to be safe and not ever an issue. So that was it's gamma sterilized. It was so important to me to have the best of the best. So, that's what I use.
What are your best memories? I guess you must have so many over the last 6 years of a couple of examples of clients you've had that stuck with you.
Well, sometimes I meet people and they're like, oh, I'm just too old to have it done. I've just accepted my body. And I'm like, no, we should all feel so comfortable in our own skin. So if having a tattoo or 2 tattoos, nipples makes you feel more comfortable in your own skin, then you should do it no matter your age. And so speaking of that, I tattooed a 72-year-old and she looked in the mirror, and I'll never forget it. I had just started maybe 6 months into pink ink tattoo, and she looked in the mirror and she said, just tears, and she started crying, getting emotional, which I do too every single time. And she was like, Tara, I've waited 17 years for this. And I said, what'd you wait so long for? And she goes, well, I've been waiting for you. I mean, that just it gives me chills now because it just is so impactful in a positive way. You just can't explain it. That's why I get to live vicariously through their experiences, because that's not the experience I had, and then even another lady, and unfortunately women, we've gone through other losses like our spouse leaves or the boyfriend because they can't handle the cancer. And it's really sad. And so I was getting ready to tattoo this lady, and she told me her story about her husband leaving her once she started going through chemo. He couldn't, 30 years married, couldn't do it. But she met a fella at church, and they had been friends for a long time. And so they didn't have time to waste, and they went ahead and got married, and which was beautiful. And she was happy. And so when we were doing color and size, she said, Tara, God gave me my first set, and they were tiny and pink. Me and my new husband, we want them big and we want them dark. And I thought, yes, this is your voice. This is what you want. Yeah. And these are what and she was so happy. She was so blown away at the result. And when I saw her probably a year later at a function, she was happier than, I mean, it just changed her whole life around. Yeah. So those are 2 just examples, and then I have a dear friend that I love so much, and she was 30 years old when she was diagnosed. Double mastectomy, chemotherapy, everything, kind of similar situation. Husband left. And so for 10 years, she went single, didn't date, had breast mounds, no areola, no nipple, nothing. And then she heard about me and she reached out, and we scheduled, and she came, and we just connected so good. Like, we're still friends today. And when she was finished, she was like, I'm ready to date. I'm ready to date. I mean, people just don't understand. Like, even doctors are like, it's a nipple. And it's like, no, it's more than that. Yeah. To many women. To some, it doesn't matter, and they get a chest piece, and that's beautiful. And that's the great thing of having options. Like, you should have an option on what makes you comfortable. Yeah. And for me, it was getting back with nipples and areola tattooing. So even when women have nipple reconstruction, you still don't have the pigment. So I just enhance what the plastic surgeon has given them, enhance what they've created just to make it more of a realistic, natural looking nipple. Right. So it impacts us, in so many different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. You're bringing all this joy and wow. And a new identity, or regaining the old identity they had lost because of surgery and cancer. It's unbelievable.
Some women, and not to kind of change it, but sometimes women are like, and I was there too, where when you're finished and you're done with me, most of the time you're finished with everything. Yeah. And so for a year or even 2 years, you've been under this bubble. It felt like a protective bubble, seeing your plastic surgeon constantly, going, doing therapies, radiation, whatever. You're always under someone's care.
Yeah.
So when they see me, a lot of women sometimes have a lot of anxiety because they're like, what do I do now? What do I do now?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you walk through that door and you go live your best life. That's what you do. Like, this was a chapter in your life, and it's always going to be a part of us, but we can't allow it to consume us, because then you're not living, and we have a second chance at life,
Oh, that's another topic. Life after breast cancer. What happens now that the doctors are gone? Wow. Yeah. The reconstruction is done. The therapies are over. What happens now? Maybe my husband left me. What happens now? What do I do?
Grocery store and like, they don't know, like how, they don't know what I've been through, and a whole new identity.
Right.
And sadly, I've met women where they just are stuck in that moment and they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And that's sad. It breaks my heart because you have to get out of it. You have to live, especially not just for yourself, but if you have family and close friends, like, they need you.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate because it's not something we can coax others to do. It comes at their own time. And let me ask you, it's maybe a silly question. So if you don't go through nipple reconstruction, you can still tattoo the nipple in the area. But maybe you get this question all the time. Yeah. So it's not, you just give the idea of the 3D.
So what the technical term would be 3D nipple tattoo. So that is where I just create a nipple with shading, and it's how the tattoo's done, and what I do is I do the nipple, and a lot of people choose not to have nipple reconstruction.
Okay.
So I created a false nipple through a tattoo, do the areola. I also add the Montgomery glands, which are the little bumps that we used to have. And I add them very subtle. So I know online you can look, and there's a lot. And to me, as a survivor and a woman, and now and a tattoo artist doing what I do, I look at them and I'm like, that just to me looks so unreal. Like, that's not what mine looked like in real life. So I add them, but it's so subtle. It just gives that textured appearance, so it looks more realistic. So I do add that. And then it blends into the skin more like a natural areola versus a tattoo that's hard line. So, absolutely. If you haven't had reconstruction, you can definitely still have that illusion.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you ever go back to yours and retouch them after the nurse?
So the nurse, has moved on in her career, even out of state. And so I have not had mine done. And there is no one. I'll do it myself eventually, and some people are like, how are you going to do it? And I don't know. Who else is going to do it? I can do it. And I use lidocaine gel, so I'm not going to have any pain. I'll just numb that, and if I need to, and do it myself. But every time I'm ready to do it, and I'm like, this weekend I'm going to do it, I get up, get ready for work, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, nobody will ever look like this that comes to me. So I don't know if it just keeps giving me that. I don't know, but I'll do it eventually. I need a revision. I put that off. I don't want another boob surgery. I had, 7 surgeries in 14 months. I need to have one soon, but so I think I'm going to wait. And then once that's done, then I'll probably
to replace the silicone. Yeah.
Right.
How long does it take for a nipple tattoo on average? I say nipple, but areola as well.
Sure. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
For bilateral, I schedule an hour and a half, and for unilateral, I schedule an hour. That gives us time, no rushing. It's going to be all about, the client, if she wants family in there, although COVID's been a little bit challenging because a lot of offices, you can't have somebody with you or only one. And that's sad because it's a celebration. Like, this is a hurrah. And for me, I'm like, you can have, in a normal situation besides COVID, it was, a pandemic. Before then, it was like, if we can stuff the room with 100 people, I'm not intimidated by it. It's not about me. It's about them. And if that makes them comfortable, then so be it. So, have what they want, and, it's on their time, but an hour and a half typically for, and it doesn't usually take that long. That just gives us time to really let them relax, let them choose what they want, and then the tattooing process. And then go over the aftercare, which I'll provide everything for them. So when they leave, that's another worry they don't have to worry with, because when they leave, they're going to have a bag that's going to have, I use an antibiotic ointment, I use non-adhesive bandages, a hydrocortisone cream, and then they always have a detailed, and this is the nurse in me as well, is, infection is my number one, and then a detailed aftercare form, because as a patient, I couldn't remember anything. I would walk out and just be like, what did they say? Because all I was doing was cancer.
I know. Yeah. Tell me, are you training anyone to fill in your shoes?
That is something that I'm definitely looking into. I've had a lot of people reach out and would like to, which is such an honor. Yeah. I think right now, because I just traveled to so many offices and just traveling, definitely not during a pandemic, that'll be probably hopefully next year, but that's my plan in the future for sure. Because, one day I would love to be able to have people reach more women that, have the same feeling as I do when it comes to this. I don't want it to be a job or think of it as, oh, I can earn an extra buck. Well, I do eyebrows. I do makeup. I can do nipples.
Yeah.
But that's not, I will never do those, and I want somebody to have that empathy and compassion towards survivors to know this isn't just a tattoo. Like this is a new beginning, and it's a huge step and process, for us. So that it's I'll probably be selective, to be honest, because I don't want to train somebody just for me to make the money of training them when they're going to go out and not have that compassion.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. Love it all that you're saying. Yeah. You have a plan, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, and you're going to leave a legacy no matter what.
And I never even thought of it being that way. I just saw the need and I just feel like I had to fill that need. Like we deserve the best. So I deserve the best, and I didn't have that. So,
and your clients too. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any tips, suggestions for the people at home? They're going through, I don't know, breast cancer, a diagnosis, or they're through their entire experience with the big C. What do you have to tell them?
Well, number one, be your best advocate, no matter what it is, from diagnosis to treatment to aftercare to everything. Nobody's going to speak up for you but you. So you have to just pull your pants up and get in there and be strong. Even when you feel like you don't have a voice, you have to have that voice. And, question, get a second opinion, a third if you need to. And then as far as areola tattooing, do your research. If you can't, of course, I would love to see everyone, but I know that's not realistic. And if you can't come to me and I don't come to your area, then do your research and just make sure that person that you choose, because there's so many people doing it nowadays, do they have a medical background? Do they know what black blood pathogens are? Do they know infection control? Are they under a health guideline with your state? It's a lot of things that people don't think about. They just say, I'm going to go get a tattoo or what have you. But there's a lot of factors, like our skin's been compromised. An infection is the last thing we need, because if you get that, you have a potential of losing that breast. Or a whole new, like you don't want to have to go through that. So, and then investigate the kind of ink. Go meet the artist, have a conversation. And if you feel comfortable with them, then, you do what you feel is best for yourself, for sure. So just research, taking care of yourself, get a good support group. If you don't have good support around you, find a support group, because they're out there. Even if it's, through social media. This community is big. There's a lot of factors in it. Some people have the wrong intention, but most of us are in it for the best intentions to help our fellow sisters, survivors, and men. So definitely, I hope that helps.
Well, it helped me for sure. It's unbelievable. I knew it existed, tattoo, but not nipple tattoo, but I didn't know the ins and outs. And this was unbelievable. And it definitely needs to be the way you're describing it. Someone dedicated, someone with medical experience, someone who knows antibiotics, infection, even the ink being appropriate for MRIs, because it won't be not doing those anytime soon. No, it's amazing. It's perfect. You found your place in the world.
Yeah.
And so many people will say, breast cancer, I'm blessed. I'm thankful for breast cancer because it gave me this. Even sometimes they'll say, my husband left me and hey, now I turned out to be, it was painful, but now it turned out to be great. So this is a club, definitely a very painful one to be in, but with some still. Exactly. Especially not at 39. Yeah. But definitely with a couple of silver linings. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah.
I absolutely. And even including my faith, that's a whole nother subject, of course, especially when it comes to cancer, and I struggled with it, especially when my dad died. Yeah. That was hard to just, but again, when I did just, stop trying to do everything myself and allow, to surrender, my life has changed and doors have opened that, I never even dreamed of. And it's amazing. And the people that I've been able to help through their journey in a positive way it's been a blessing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And allow yourself to be helped as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Tara. You're an inspiration. I'm just going to be floating on air and clouds all day today.
It just brings up a lot of,
It's true. Take it.
Yeah.
Take it. It's accept it. It's true. No need to cry. No need for tears. You are an angel. You come to people with, for real.
I appreciate that so much.
For real.
Thank you so much.
Well, this was a pleasure. Thank you, Tara. Please stay in touch. We'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And that was our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you were able to take away some useful tips and tools to use in your own life. Don't forget to subscribe to Mind Bloom, the podcast, anywhere you stream your podcasts. And please leave a message on the Anchor FM voicemail if you have any questions or comments for me. Also, please leave a review on the Apple Podcasts app. That would help the podcast reach more people. That would be great. Follow Mind Bloom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at MindBloomU. And check out my website, mindbloomu.com. Don't forget, a new episode every Tuesday. I look forward to spending time with you again next week. Be well and stay blessed. Bye-bye.